Hello. Hey, sorry about the last broadcast today, the one I just did before this one. I was unaware that I still had music playing in the background as the whole time I was talking. And then when I started Lex's story. So we're going to redo that one for today. So I apologize. Please forgive me. Here we are at swimforrecovery.com, day 5. Already swum 330 laps of 1,980 laps for the month. Here to create awareness about recovery. Now, freedom from addiction is so key and so important, and some people don't see it that's even possible. Some people don't even believe it can be fun, which is why we're doing all these stories so you can hear how do people find recovery from substances, gambling, sex, porn, shopping, whatever it might be. So, how do you find freedom from addiction? And if you haven't done so already and you want to, grab a copy of my new book this weekend because it's half off. If you go to Amazon and look up the addiction intervention book today's the last day. It's actually half off on Amazon today. So you can grab one of these. Tons of strategies and tools to help families learn how to break free from addiction, and tons of stories in here about professionals and what they've done to take their journey of chaos and turn it into the beautiful thing about helping people find freedom. So that's what this is all about, sharing stories, tips, and tools. But again, if you haven't ordered one already, they're half off this week on Amazon. It's called the Addiction Intervention Book. So go grab a copy today, even order a couple and send them off to a family member that might need to read it. But it's stories of hope and tools and strategies. And today we're going to hear from Lex. He's going to share his story and his recovery journey. And, he's doing great things and really made a beautiful thing out of his mess in his journey. And I want to let you know this too. Recovery can be fun. You probably heard this from people before. And again, I'd love for y'all to go ahead and make comments, ask questions. Definitely share this post on your social media pages because we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So recovery can be a beautiful thing. I found the rooms of recovery 21 years ago. And back then it was just kind of like you just did AA and we had some sober softball stuff, but now there's so much more opportunity with things like Sober AF and the Phoenix and all these sober softball leagues, sober clubs. There's sober motorcycle groups. I don't know if they call them sober motorcycle gangs, but sober motorcycle clubs. And there's so much things you can do in recovery. And even learning how do you have a healthy relationship like with money, say you have a gambling addiction, or how do you have a healthy relationship with people if you have like an intimacy addiction or a sex or porn addiction. How do you have a healthy relationship with food if you have a food addiction? So there's all these things, but inside there's just something missing. And I want you all to know this, that when I swim these 66 laps a day, when I'm in the pool, I'm listening to music some of the times, but a lot of times I'm praying for you while I'm swimming. I'm praying for past clients I've helped with when I do interventions and coaching, and I pray for the family members. I pray for people by name. A name will pop into my head, and I'll actually pray for you that whole entire length of the pool. And it's awesome. I pray for the loved ones. I pray for the person suffering from an addiction. And I pray for you by name while I swim these lengths. So it's not just about swimming and creating awareness and raising funds. I mean, so far we've raised about $1,800. And if you just go to swimforrecovery.com, you can go through, read about my story and why I love swimming, and you can donate. And it supports people that need financial help looking for opportunities for sober living or counseling or therapy needs, and also supports the podcasting and everything else that I do and stuff like this, all these online events I do to encourage people and share tools to help people. So again, before we step into Lex's thing, if you haven't grabbed a copy of the Addiction Intervention book, this is my author proof. That's why it has that weird bar across it. Go grab one on Amazon today, and tonight it's going to go back to a full price tomorrow, but it's half off today. So let's jump into Lex's story, and then we'll kind of wrap up after that. So Lex, thanks a bunch for being here. And I'm going to pull up the screen, and we're going to share Lex's story. So enjoy the story of Lex. All right, excited to share another story of recovery during the Swim Core recovery event in September. And I've known Lex for a while, so I'm really excited to ask you some questions, Lex, and dive more into your story. And so I've already said your first name, but Lex, what is your full name?
Lex Papish,
Lex Papish. And your sobriety date is?
September 16th of 2009.
All right. And what was your DOC?
Well, at the end, it was alcohol, but, it was longer than 3 decades of jumping around to different substances. I'd say my first addiction was the hallucinogen family. Weed and acid. I thought that was what I needed to be doing to be a successful art student at the time.
Yeah, you like the four-letter drugs, weed and acid, right?
Yeah.
And what city are you? What city and state are you sitting in right now?
I am in unincorporated Arapahoe County in Metro Denver,
All
Colorado.
right, all right, cool, and all right, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that part of it. I know we're gonna dive in more to that, but the cornucopia of drugs and alcohol and stuff is just a lot of common stories. So we're gonna kind of go through the good old rigmarole of what it was like, what happened, and what it was like now,
Yeah.
and do this kind of interview style. So yeah, so let's talk about the beginning of your life and how these things kind of came into your life.
Well, looking back on it, I was always abusing something. I was abusing my athletic prowess in the neighborhood at one time until people started outgrowing me, and so I that wasn't working well anymore. I started abusing whatever intellect I had, and I would try to be an intellectual bully. And then when I discovered women as a high, I started abusing them. There were It was actually in college when I first really discovered substances and realized that they were an available high whenever I'm wanted. So they just fit right in, and I really didn't. I I didn't see them as being anything other than another way to manage my emotions.
Yeah, and was it hard? Like you said, manage emotions. Were you just kind of an erratic kind of guy, just all over the place?
Yeah, yeah. I was I was always sure that I was destined for great things, fame and fortune. And I was just as certain that I was completely unworthy of any success whatsoever. And so that conversation that was happening in my head constantly would drive me crazy. Um, I could turn it off for a while with those things that would distract me. And substances were a great distraction.
Yeah. So do I hear self-doubt and self-sabotage kind of in your story?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got kicked out of 4 colleges as I was learning how to do drugs.
Oh man, that was what were your folks doing during this time period of your life of getting kicked out of colleges left and right?
Well, my father died when I was young, completely unexpectedly. Day after Thanksgiving, it was an enormous upheaval. Lost a lot of extended family in the events that followed, and moved to a completely different part of the state. So uh, that was a big deal. My mother was running a business. She was an entrepreneur, and as long as I wasn't having to be bailed out of jail, she really couldn't be bothered. And I wasn't having to be bailed out of jail. I was, I still had a persona of Jack Armstrong, All American Kid. I could pull that off. I had many different personae that I would use depending on the audience.
Hmm. Yeah, living the life of chameleon. Sorry to hear about you losing your dad at a young age. That had to be hard.
Yeah, yeah. I had no idea how much it affected me until much later when I started really getting into recovery and finally processing it properly.
Mm. That's important. I don't want to miss this opportunity to talk about that because I know we'll get to the recovery piece, but talk more about that. Like, what did you learn in recovery on how that affected you as a kid and a young adult?
I realized that I had lost him at the age of 12, and it was right at the time when I was trying to figure out what it was to be a man. And I had just started rebelling against him and testing who I was against him. Now, I had no brothers in the family, so uh, suddenly there were no male role models. And when I say I lost the extended family, I lost all of his brothers a couple of years later when my mother remarried. And they thought that was an unforgivable sin. And so the role models just weren't there. I was floating with no direction.
Yeah. How interesting is that in your life today? Just me kind of knowing you and your story that you're now a role model for men that you get to help. That's pretty cool.
It's well, I'm assuming that they'll find out that I'm unworthy of that eventually.
I didn't say you were a good role model. I'm just totally
You know,
kidding.
the role models I point them to are Bill and Bob and
Yeah.
all the giants whose shoulders we stand on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. In the recovery world. And obviously your drug cornucopia, as you mentioned earlier, came to a head somehow in your life where you're like, I got to make some changes. So what was that turning point in your life to enter into the recovery world?
Well, you know, I would get in trouble. I'm in a 35-year marriage now. 22 years of that were spent with my wife, who does not have a substance problem, and so there was always friction when I would go off and indulge my need to get away from my own head. Um, and I would come back and I would abstain long enough to get out of trouble. That was I didn't have any periods of sobriety, but I did have long periods of abstinence and quite a few promises to her along the way. I was actually able to keep up my addiction until the eve of my 50th birthday. I found a drunk that I could not pull out of, which surprised the hell out of me.
Mm.
I'd always been able to pull out before. I had always been able to find the end of it, and I couldn't.
How long did that last?
Oh boy. It, in total, it lasted probably a year or so. I passed it off as depression for a while, and actually was able to fool some of the people around me. But I mean, in the last 3 months or so, it got so uncontrollable that I really wasn't human anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was the kind of like that last, straw that broke the camel's back for you?
Well, strangely, I had reconciled myself to the idea that I was going to die, and I was getting close. Um, and I just figured that one day I wouldn't wake up, and that would be relief, because I could not imagine any other relief. I had tried everything that I could think of, and I was completely unteachable at that point in my life, kicked out of 4 colleges. I am not a teachable person by nature. So I really wasn't asking for any input on this. Fortunately, there was a very loving intervention that got me into a 30-day treatment, where right about day 23, I realized that I had become teachable for the first time in this beautiful crystalline minute that had nothing to do with any thought that I've ever had in my head before.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a tingle moment right there, man.
it was. It was a beautiful gift to me.
And then life just took off and it was easy peasy in recovery, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, the IRS still wanted a huge chunk of my butt because I hadn't been playing by their rules, and I was unemployed. It was the tail end of that 2008 2009 recession. I had crippled our finances. I mean, I I was finally able to see things clearly, but things didn't look good.
Wow. Well, it never said like even in recovery, it talks about the fear of financial security will leave us, but it doesn't mean that financial situation is not, it's gone. It's still there.
In fact, as I passed that stage in my development, I the fear of financial insecurity did leave me, and we were still in completely unstable territory. My wife was panicking regularly, and I wasn't panicking with her. And she told me that it was really annoying that I wouldn't take this seriously. And I said, it's not that I'm not taking it seriously, it's just that I don't fear it.
Isn't that interesting? The different perspectives, right? Like you're in the midst of it and you're both seeing the exact same thing. And because your heightened emotions and stuff isn't all around it, it could seem like you don't care, but yet you've turned it over and you're like, man, I mean, were some of your thoughts like, hey, it's just going to work out. We're going to be fine. This like, yeah.
I had been through hell. I mean, there was nothing the world could throw at me that was worse than being on the brink of trying to take myself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what happened after that? I mean, you're where you are now. And again, you do a lot of great things to help people, but what
Yeah.
has recovery meant to you and what helps your recovery stay strong?
Yeah. Well, again, I say that I became teachable for the first time. And fortunately, there are a lot of generous people on this path, and they're sharing ideas and opening up conversations. I just sought out those people who were excited about what was happening in their lives. And I tried to hang around those people. You know, it, I, I didn't get hung up on what I was giving up, because there was nothing back there that I wanted to salvage. It was just all wreckage. So being open to those new ideas is something that changed radically at that point. And I sought out mentors who could really guide me through what I was feeling and what I was seeing. I mean, there are bumps along the way. I remember at about 6 months going through a period, I picked up a chip and they said in the meeting, why don't we have the chip takers say something? And I just held up the chip and I said, if this is what it's all about, I don't know if I want it. And that was an authentic feeling, but it wasn't the truth of the situation. And the feeling was not based on truth. And fortunately, several people came up to me after the meeting, said, look, I know, I've been there. Don't worry, it passes. You'll get through it. You're doing the right thing. Even if it doesn't feel right, we're here to tell you you're doing the right thing.
Powerful and encouraging.
Yeah. And so I knew that I had to become one of those guys as I came to it.
So, yeah. So I'm hearing teachability and vulnerability are kind of key to recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Rigorous honesty is freeing,
Cool. I hear a lot of freedom in that too. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story today. I know there's a lot more to it as well, but some of the things that are great about doing this, what I'm doing in September is just, I know you and I see you around town. So that's pretty cool. And not a lot of people I get to do that with that are sharing their stories. So it's good to know you, Lex, and just thanks a bunch. Any parting words you want to say to people considering recovery today?
Go deep. It's not about how much time, how long your recovery is. It's about how deep your recovery is.
Amen to that. Amen. That deep roots are important. So, all right, Lex, well, enjoy your day today. I know you probably got a lot of fun things going on, I'm sure, as
yeah, back to work.
Back to work. There you go. Changing
And
lives,
I'm
man.
grateful for it.
All right, Lex, say hi to your wife and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you, Rob. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, Lex, thanks for sharing your story with us. Totally appreciate that. Again, if you go to swimforrecovery.com, you can actually watch all the videos. I posted them all in there and just learn more about why I'm passionate about swimming and passionate about recovery. And again, if you haven't grabbed one yet, this is the last day to get the addiction intervention book on sale at half off for Labor Day weekend. So enjoy that kind of special thank you. And yeah, go to swimforrecovery.com. Would love for you to check out more of the story. And also, we're really trying to raise funds to help people that really can't afford the help or just need a leg up and just support Lifted from the Rut programs. So please go and check it out. There's some cool things. I mean, if you contribute, so we do it kind of like by mile, or by lap. So let's say you donate 10 cents a lap, that's $198. I will send you a copy of my book. And it just kind of goes up from there. So go check out some of the cool different little levels just to have a little fun. You're just supporting myself to be able to help people that come to me for help that can't afford it. And again, just all the Lifted from the Rut programs that we do. So God bless. Have an amazing, happy Labor Day. All those things. I think a lot of pools shut down this weekend and things start shutting down this weekend, but I know it's going to be hot as heck here in Denver. It's 93 degrees all week. And that's it. So that's it for today. And looking forward to catching up with you all later. Bye.